This is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Subscribe, rate, and review. Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Check us out. Remember, we're on Instagram at That Guy Jig. We're talking college football. College ball, they're in the off season. But this is a season in itself. Especially with the portal, man. And last week we talked about Ohio State and how they have a very, very good portal haul. And it's a lot of quality. Now, another team that has a lot of quality in the portal is Oregon. What Dan Lanning what he is doing in Oregon should be marveled at. They're going to make a big splash in the Big Ten next year. Immediate impact. Immediate impact. They bring in Evan Stewart from A&M, Jabbar Muhammad, the corner from Washington, Deontay Moore, quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, quarterback. Those guys right there, just those four players bring you experience at a high level. Jabbar Muhammad is probably the best corner in college football. Started at O State, went to Washington, played for a national championship. Now he's at Oregon. Cam Alexander, another corner. What Dan Lanning did, also with bringing in the highest ranked recruiting class in program history at number 5, should be marveled at. Watch out for Oregon next year. In the Big Ten, watch out. It's going to be exciting. The University of Kansas is playing 4 games at Arrowhead Stadium next year. Next year is going to be exciting. The Big 12, they have released some of their games for next year. Some of their marquee matchups for their new conference expansion. Let's not forget the Big 12 goes to 16 next year. So there are going to be some exciting things going on next year in college football. We're going to 12 teams in the playoffs. Like I just said, we got 16 teams in the Big 12. Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Colorado, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, K-State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, Houston, and West Virginia now make up the new Big 12. That's 16 strong. I expect at least 2 of them to be in the playoffs. Now, which 2? If I had to go off the top of my head right now, I like Utah to make a strong run. I like Arizona to make a strong run. Oklahoma State could. They have Ollie Gordon. They have the best running back in America. Quarterback coming back. Depending on what they do in the portal, they can make a splash. And let's not forget about the obvious. Colorado Buffalo returning back to the Big 12, which I believe they should have never left. They should have never left. I don't think people truly understand how beautiful, how magnificent the Big 12 could have been if it stayed together. Because we have to understand at one point in time, the Big 12 was that of the Big 10, of the SEC now. At one point in time, championships came through the Big 12. So I'm thinking, what would have happened if the Big 12 would have expanded? What if the Big 12 would have got the Pac-12? But coulda, shoulda, woulda. Here we are. But like I said, Colorado's going back home. They're going back to the Big 12. I like them. I like them in the addition. They have a top 10. They have a top 10 transfer portal team. So you know Deion's bringing in the offensive lineman to protect your door. Listen, we saw what Colorado brought to the table last year. We saw what that Buffalo team was able to do offensively. We cannot act like Sanders was not a top 5 passing quarterback in college football last year. We cannot act like the Colorado Buffaloes were not a top 5 scoring offense in all of college football last year. Did we forget what happened in Texas? Did we forget about Travis Hunter? This team got better. This team got more experience. Coach Prime got more experience. He still has that fan base. They're going to be more rowdy. They're going to be more robust. They're going to be fucking wild in Boulder. Especially if they can get to a bowl game. If they can get to a bowl game in the Big 12 next year, I'm telling you, man, the Big 12 is going to put 2 teams in the playoffs. And if I had to go my top 5 for the Big 12 next year, in no order, if I had to give it to you right now, gun to my head, who you got, Jig? I'm going Arizona. I'm going UCF. You can't forget about Gus Malzahn. I'm going Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon. That's 3. Colorado makes 4. And I'll go Kansas State for 5. So that those 5 teams are the teams I expect to make a run. Now, Utah's another one. The Big 12 is going to be a deep conference. I'm not saying it's going to be up there as far as juggernauts, but it's going to be a solid conference top to bottom. It's going to be one of those conferences that might get, 9, maybe 10 teams in the playoffs. In bowl eligibility. The Big 12 is going to have all the playoff teams. No, not going to happen. But I do expect that conference to be competitive. It is going to probably, I do expect it to be a little bit more competitive than the ACC. The only thing the ACC has over the Big 12 is they have Clemson. That's it. You have Clemson and they have Florida State. And if you really want to be one of those weirdos, they have Miami. But honestly, what are we talking about? I mean, the University of Miami is good as far as what they've done in history. But as far as being that team, no. I'm going to tell you right now, they're far from it. I don't even know. I really don't even know what. Yeah, I'm sorry. Miami's a reach. It's a reach for me. It's going to be a reach for me, So, right now, it's Clemson and Florida State that separates themselves from the Big 12. Other than that, it's the same damn conference. But listen, while we're partying, while we're getting ready for it, and listen, it's getting to the good part. It's getting to the good part, folks. We got transfer portal. We got coordinators getting promoted. We got shout out to Michigan, Sean Moore, Coach Moore, head coach, got promoted, got the job. Shout out to him. It might be Shane. I don't know. Don't quote me. But shout out to Coach Moore from Michigan. But while the party is going, everything is feeling good. We're feeling great. I'm here to tell you, they're coming. The NCAA is coming. Listen, they're letting them have that. They let them have their fun. All these teams that are out here doing this pay for play, and listen, Jig is a fan for play for play. I am a fan of it. But for all the people who are like, no play to play, it makes it uneven. I understand it. I understand the argument. I 100% understand the argument because at what point do we just say, see ya? Because when you do play to play, there becomes a point where there's such a big gap. There becomes such a huge gap between some of these teams that it's not even fair. Yes, the portal is the great equalizer. Yes, some teams will make runs. Yes, the portal does make it to where you can't hoard as much talent. All these things are true. The portal does do these things. But at the same time, once you start saying if the NCAA today were to come out and say pay to play is now legal, it's over for certain universities. You understand what I'm saying? If the NCAA comes out tomorrow and says pay to play is now legal in the NCAA, and you are now able to just hey, I'm telling you right now, the Power Five, there now becomes a group within the Power Five. There's the Power Five, and then there's probably the Super 15. And then from there, whatever. Figure it out. Because that's what the NCAA wants to avoid. And I understand when people say pay to play. Well, that's why I say you put a cap on it. You put a cap on it, you put agents, when they have their agents, you put rules instead where, certain universities, you can't make it, you have to make it to kind of where you have salary caps. You're going to have to cap it. It's going to have to be structured like, how professional football teams are or professional teams are. If you really wanted to make it even, you would have to make it to where these teams have salary caps, where these collectives have a salary cap, where these collectives can only go to a certain amount of money because this is why. And I'm about to explain now. You've heard me talk about Nico, quarterback at Tennessee. 5-star quarterback, probably one of the highest rated quarterbacks to ever go to the University of Tennessee, let alone 5-star player. Just all around, probably one of the highest ranked players to ever go there. Now listen, Tennessee is already in hot water. If you don't know, Jeremy Pruitt got Tennessee 18 high-level violations for the schemes that he was running. Now Jeremy Pruitt, if you do not know as well, Jeremy Pruitt was the guy that had his wife giving recruits money in McDonald's bags. Now that's pretty cool if you're a recruit. Head coach's wife comes up with a Big Mac. Holy shit, there's $5,000 in here. I think I might be a volunteer. I might volunteer to be a volunteer after I eat this Big Mac with $5,000 in it. What a sandwich. What a meal. Now that's what Jeremy Pruitt was doing, but you can't do that, folks. You can't do that. Not even today you can do that. That is illegal. You cannot pay to play. That is what the NCAA has made very clear. Listen, I'm not a fan of the NCAA. You know that. I hate those damn pimps. That's what I think they are. But I understand what they're trying to do at this point. Because all the people who want rule, if you want rule and regulation, this is where it starts. If you want a little bit of law and order in the transfer portal and the NIL transfer portal era, if you want law and order, this is where it begins. This is the start of something new. And the NCAA is going to try to get people on their side with this one. Because I'm telling you, they've kind of laid it out for them. If you see what they've done, they've came out and they said, hey, no NIL. No NIL. You cannot do that. Okay? They came out and they said that. Now they changed. Now when NIL changed, so no pay to play. That's what they came out with. Once they all agreed the NIL was okay, the NCAA was like, hey, no, we cannot pay to play though. So then they come out and say the athletes can engage in NIL. You can engage with it as long as it's in line with state law. So as long as you're within the state law, you can engage with it. Well, in April of 2022, Tennessee went ahead and passed a law that said that colleges can now have NIL collectives talk directly to university reps. So players, coaches, and guess what? Recruits. Now, players and recruits can talk directly to the collective. You can get a direct quote from the direct mouth, the direct horse. The horse is telling you. The horse is hee-hawing. You ain't gotta follow the cube, the sugar cubes. The horse is right there. Just hop on its back and it will take you where you want to go. So all this is happening. Keep in mind, Nico committed to Tennessee in March. So all this is going on, and the NCAA is still telling people you cannot pay to play because it was rumored that Nico got $8 million. Now, Tennessee is not the only state to go ahead and change legislation. You got to remember, there was a lot of states that changed legislation to get ahead of NIL. That was one of the biggest things that went on behind the closed door. That's why all these schools are able to throw out this money, folks. And that's why you have to have a cap. That's the only way to make it fair is if you give a salary cap. Just like in the NFL. Or in professional sports. But you look at what Tennessee's under investigation for. Let's break it, okay? Hey, let's break it down like a fraction. Let's start here. First and foremost, their former coach was giving players money in McDonald's bag. Let's start there. Okay? Then from there, state laws get changed. NIL gets brought in. State laws get changed. The NCAA is like, hey, no. And then they say, you know what? As long as you're in accordance with the state law. If the state law says you can do it, we don't care. As long as that's in the state of the university that you're talking about. So what does Tennessee do? What does Arkansas do? What does Oklahoma do? What does Alabama do? What do all of these states do? They change legislation so that their schools can compete. Because I don't know if you know this, but football is very big on a lot of places. It's huge. A lot of places need football. So what do these states do? They give their universities a fighting chance to compete. Because guess what? You can pay to play as long as it's in state legislation. Because now, like I said, you can have a collective rep talk directly to a university rep. And if you are a player, if you are a coach, guess what? You are a representative of that university. And guess what that falls under? Recruits, and that's why Nico falls under this umbrella. Now, only thing that can save them is that all this happened prior to the NCAA dropping ruling. This is all prior to the NCAA's ruling. And it's not really confirmed that Tennessee did anything illegal. Now, we know, but we don't know. We know, but we don't know. What we know is that Nico is the highest rated player to ever go to Tennessee. And we also know that he's there. Now, how he got there? Maybe Josh Heupel's a hell of a recruiter. I don't know. I think so. He was a great quarterback. He was a great quarterback for OU. So maybe his offense looks fun to play in. They play in the best conference in America. I don't know all this to be true about the money. I'm just giving you the stories. And I'm also letting you know that Florida State got hit with a 2-year probation because they did a pay-to-play with a transfer portal player. The NCAA is making their rounds. They're making their way downtown, and they're walking fast. The faces are passing, and they are homebound. I'm trying to tell you, a 2-year probation is no joke because now, if Florida State gets caught doing something else, you are a repeat offender in the eyes of the NCAA. Now, we know how the NCAA is. They are not very consistent with their ruling, especially depending on what your university name is. They're not very consistent. The University of Florida, also under investigation. I'm telling you, they are making their rounds. If you're a fan of a university and you are getting players you're not supposed to be getting, they're going to be knocking on your door. Knock, knock, knocking. They're knocking on the door. I'm telling you right now, the NCAA, they waited. They looked. They saw who was doing what and who was doing who and where people were going. They are following the money. And if the money is funny, honey, they're coming. The NCAA is coming. Burn the books. It's time to burn the books. Get rid of the evidence because if they're coming after Florida State, they're coming after Tennessee, they're going to come after Florida. Listen, just be on the lookout. Just be on the lookout to see who else might be under investigation. Because we all know once one falls, there's more. There's more. There's more. But this is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Listen, we're rolling. I think we're going to start adding on. We're going to start a little more transferring into a little bit of college basketball. We're going to bring a little bit more of that. March Madness is around the corner. So we're going to start getting conference championships or tournaments coming up. We're going to start bringing in some college basketball. But we're not going to stop this college football. This college football train will never stop. It will never stop. This locomotion will never stop. This is the first of the 3. You know how it be. This show is going to go on. The show always will go on. And this is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Subscribe, rate, and review. And check us out. Once again, this is me. Peace.